and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 107 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. This one was super fun, so let's get into it. We start in the Fey Realm. Inside the Shrine of Gilded Gifts, the party have just attacked Ludinus after the meeting he had with the Unseelie Court had ended. Gloomglut has turned toward Fern, who is standing in the hallway going into the central chamber of this temple. It is now time to roll initiative. Laudna, 18, Chetney, 18, Breus, 18, Ashton, 15, Fern, 15, Dorian, 14, Imogen, 8, and Aurum, 8. A lot of the decisions on where they were specifically came by rollies. First up is Laudna. She casts Mirror Image on herself and then takes her form of Dread. She now looks very Victorian Banshee, as she describes it, and the reason is because she has more influence over her own power now. Then Chetney is up. He is outside of the temple. He runs in, stands next to Fern, and takes out Ludinus's notes from his bag of holding. He tells Fern to use it. She knows what to do with it, but Fern is confused. Chetney then puts a brand of castigation on Fern, dealing 13 damage to her, but he now will always know where she is. He then runs off into one of these side chambers of this hallway. Breus is up. He runs around the outside of the temple and dashes to get into the window, going into another one of these exterior chambers in this temple. Putting him in the doorway right near Fern, he then inspires her with a drawing that he made, to which Sam actually pulls out a picture of Fern. Wonder who drew that. I genuinely am curious who drew that. I wonder if they credit it somewhere. Ludinus' simulacrum is up. He runs up to Gloomglut. He sees Fern and then casts Power Word Stun, which works because she has 77 HP and you need 150 or more to not be stunned. However, Laudna casts Counterspell. She needs to beat a DC of 18 and she rolls a 20. That was a natural 20, I believe. He doesn't counterspell as he didn't know that she was there. I actually like that ruling quite a lot. He looks up and sees both Laudna and Imogen, so from now on he does know where they are. Ashton is up. He is under the ground. He moves up and feels himself glide through the quicksand that was created from Fern's spell in the last session. He dashes and peeks his head out to see where the other pillar is that's holding up the chamber. He sees Gloomglut and Zethutha above him, and then he sees the pillar and he glides over towards it. Fern is up. She walks into the chamber and yells, "Daddy, we need to talk." She says that Ludinus is lying to him and is going to betray him, and he asks for him to get her out of here. Now we know why the brand of castigation was used. She needs to roll a persuasion check so that he'll even hear her out in the first place. She rolls a 24 using Breus' inspiration. Gloomglut lowers his head and opens its mouth, and Darkfire charges there. She bows a bit to it. Dorian is up. He runs into the temple and sees Fern and casts Force Cage around her, seemingly blocking the hallway from this potential fire blast. Dorian then inspires her as well. Gloomglut is up. Zethutha pulls back on the reins, and the blast is let out, but it arcs up towards Imogen and Laudna instead of going towards Fern, who would have been safe because of Force Cage. Dex saves from the two of them. Natural 20 from Laudna. She takes 16 fire damage, and a 24 from Imogen. She also takes 16 damage. Gloomglut then flies back up towards Imogen and Laudna. Zethutha leaps off. It's his turn now. Zethutha leaps off Gloomglut and Misty steps into the room behind Imogen and Laudna. He swings for Imogen, hitting, and then he swings for Laudna and misses due to her mirror image. Imogen takes 15 slashing damage and 5 fire damage. He then swings for Laudna again, this time hitting and dealing 16 slashing damage and 8 fire damage. He says they don't need their influence on Fern's true path. The emissary is up, the emissary for the Unseelie Court. He pulls himself free using an action and then runs near Ludinus. One of the guards of the Unseelie Court, who is also in there, frees himself and runs towards Fern, just in case she gets out of that cage. The other guard waits for the Force Cage to drop as well, holding his action. Gloomglut uses 2 legendary actions to do a rend attack on Imogen. He hits, dealing 12 damage. Imogen is up. She misty steps onto the saddle of Gloomglut and grabs his reins, and tries to take control of him. Animal handling check. As he didn't see who was on top of him, and because of her background, she has advantage on the roll, and she rolls a 20, dirty 20. Gloomglut pulls his arm out of the hole and seems to be listening to her as it pulls back a little bit. Orm is up. He runs inside and dashes up to the force cage. That's his whole turn. Ira is up. He climbs inside through one of the windows and then dimensions door over to Zethouda. He says it's been a while to Zethouda, and Zethouda simply says, fuck. Laudna is up. She uses a void puppet on Zethouda and then casts Blight on him. He fails the roll, taking 40 necrotic damage. He would have to roll a wisdom save to see if he is afraid of Laudna's form of dread, but he's immune to fear. Laudna then sits still to help out Ira when he goes to attack. Chetney is up. He runs past the force cage as there's a little bit of space on either side for them to run through. But he ends up right next to one of the guards. He rolls an acrobatics check to see if he can get by him. He rolls high enough. The guy swings at him and misses. Chetney runs up to Ludinus and starts swinging for him. Hitting with a 27 and a 20, he deals 20 damage on the first and 18 on the second attack. Breus is up. He runs up to the force cage and uses Misty Step to get beside Ludinus, and he swings with a 27 and then casts Divine Smite on it, dealing 40 damage. He then swings again, however, this one misses. Ira uses a legendary action to attack Zethouda. They finally have legendary actions going in their favor. He hits and deals 12 damage to Zethouda. Ludinus is up. He looks to the emissary and says that he needs to get the message to their allies and starts to cast a teleport spell, not the teleport spell. Laudna goes to counterspell, but Ludinus counterspells that spell. His counter works. She didn't roll high enough. His spell countered her spell. He rolled high enough. So he preps the spell, but doesn't want to risk getting hit as of right now, so he holds it. Ashen is up, and the plan has now changed. He charges Ludinus, he rages, and gets Time Rage. He then swings for Ludinus with advantage from Chetney, and he hits with a natural 20. And he adds a Chaos Burst and a Ring Charge to it, dealing a total of 70 damage with one swing. Ludinus drops the spell that he was holding, which was Dimension Door. Ashen then swings again with a 28, dealing 24 more damage. I feel like I forgot to mention that first... No, I said natural 20. That first swing from Ashen was a natural 20. Just wanted to make sure I said it. This second swing actually killed Ludinus' Simulacrum. Before he dies, Ludinus says they learn very little each time. He then puts his forehead into the swing from Ashen, making it hit the gem on his forehead, causing him to explode. They seemingly forgot that that's a thing that happens. Hitting the boys near Ludinus and the emissary. Dexterity saves from them. Natural 20 from Ashen. He takes 23 damage. 6 from Breus. He takes 45 force damage and is thrown to the back wall. And Chetney saves with a 25. He takes 12 damage and is thrown away. Why did he take... Oh, because he halves that. Never mind. The emissary takes 23 damage as well. The pillar, however, takes a heavy hit from this. Ashley rolls a d20 to see if the pillar will hold, and she rolls a 19. It does hold for now, but it doesn't look like it has very long to stay there. Fern is up. She summons Mister next to her. She uses Fiery Teleport to land on the outside of the force cage. She needs to roll a charisma save to get out, though, and she rolls a 21, teleporting outside. The guard who is holding his action swings and hits, dealing 8 damage to Fern. She then tells the emissary that Ludinus has been siphoning life from the Fae for who knows how long, and says that she has proof. She rolls a perception check with inspiration, rolling a natural 20 for 33 on her persuasion check. That's 4 natural 20s so far, by the way. The emissary holds his position, looking at her, not totally sure what to do yet. Dorian is up. He runs into the room and ends up next to one of the Unseelie guards. He dashes next to Fern and Mister. However, one of the guards swings at him as he goes by, and he gets hit with a natural 20 of his own. So Dorian takes 15 damage and then ends up standing next to Fern. Gloomglut is up and he is charging his Fire Blast. Imogen pulls on the reins and then pulls him away from Zethouda. That way he can't Misty Step over to it. Gloomglut then sees a bunch of targets to aim at, and Imogen pulls on the reins to try to stop this, much like Zethouda did earlier, and she rolls a 13, which doesn't beat the strength of Gloomglut. The dark fire gaze blasts out, hitting the emissary, Dorian, Fern, and one of the guards. Dex saves. Dorian with an 18 takes 15 fire damage, and Fern with a 7 takes 15 fire damage because she resists fire. The emissary fails, however, so he takes 30 damage, and the guard fails as well. They both survive, though. Ira is up and Ira uses a legendary action to attack Zethuda again, but misses. Zethuda is now up. He moves to the hole that was created in the wall by Imogen, and sees that Gloomglut is a little too far away because of what Imogen did. Zethuda puts his blade down and says that with him gone, maybe they should have a conversation. Insight check from Laudna. She rolls an 8. Seems legit. He says that he believes their goals align. Lana tells the others in her head what she just heard. Chetney says that they should take this opportunity, but Ira says that he doesn't trust him. Zethuda falls out of the hole, and Ira swings and hits. I didn't hear the damage that came out of that. Lana tries to grab him to keep him up, or to at least fall down with him, but she rolls a natural 1 on the check and isn't quick enough to grab him. He misty steps to the center of the chamber. The emissary is up. He asks what's going on, and Zethuda says that Ludinus has never been worthy of listening to. He says they should continue the plan without Ludinus, and looks at Fern and says that his daughter might be the key. The Unseelie are tense at this, but they hold still. It's now Imogen's turn. She uses her action to try to move Gloomglut to the hole that she made to send him through if the need comes up. She speaks to him in his mind and says to stay down and to stay calm, that she's on his side. Contested rolls to see whose will is stronger. Wisdom check or wisdom roll, 15 from Imogen. He rolled a 1. Gloomglut flies over to the other side of the chamber next to the hole. She uses a sorcery point to cast a spell and holds to quicken spell so she can cast another spell. And she holds Psychic Lance towards Zethuda if something goes wrong. Orym is up. He sees Zethuda is holding his hand up and Gloomglut is waiting. He goes into the room and then runs between the emissary and Zethuda, using bait and switch to add more AC to the emissary. He tells the emissary that they'll get him out safely and that they have information he needs to see. He then hexes Zethuda. Ira looks at Laudna and says, "Can you trust him? Can you trust me?" And Laudna says, "Not really." Ira simply says, "Good." At this moment, initiative is on pause. Laudna heads down into the room. The emissary asks for the evidence that they are talking about. Fern takes out notes that from Ludinus, his old notes from Meleismere. She tells the emissary that the notes show what he's been doing for hundreds of years, siphoning life from the Fae. Chetney tells him about Meleismere and that he betrayed them, and then he will betray them like the city. The emissary asks what Zethuda thinks, and Zethuda says that he was sent to watch Ludinus and thinks his goal can and will be done, he just doesn't think Ludinus should be the one to do it. He thinks with the help of the Bellcells they can move to a new era and destroy Ludinus and take his dream to make it their own. He says the ones before them can free the Unseelie from them, meaning the gods. Fern insight checks Zethuda and to get a feel on his intent, she rolls a 23 and gets a whisper. Zethuda says that Ludinus deserves nothing, a brilliant mind with no vision, a damaged soul throwing a temper tantrum. I really like that line. But Fern's destiny awaits as she who ate the gods, Inferno Empress and caster of the deepest shadows. He says that she will be the future Lady Fern Zethuda. Fern asks the future of what, and Zethuda tells the emissary to go and tell Saminar what is happening. He'll return to the Vanguard, and when the time is right, they will slay Ludinus. Then Fern will be the new vessel of the future. Imogen says that they shouldn't let him send word, as that'll still reinforce the Malleus key. Chetney says that might be the best option they have to at least warn their forces of what's happening. Dorian says that this is the same problem, just with new leadership. Zethuda, this is all in their heads, by the way. Zethuda then calls to Gloomglut, who slams to the ground. Strength check from Imogen to see if she can stay on it, but she rolls a 2 and is thrown off. She casts Fly with her sorcery points, so that doesn't matter. She thanks Gloomglut for the ride in his head. Zethуда says that he can take the emissary back, but if they don't trust him, the emissary and his guards can make their own way back. He will return to the unknowing vanguard in the meanwhile. Fern asks if he's been a spy all along, and if he really never trusted Ludinus. He asks why anyone would trust him. He's a brilliant mind that doesn't deserve what he's getting, so they'll wait and take it. Laudna asks if Ludinus is waiting for his betrayal, and Zethуда says that he's waiting for everyone's betrayal, but Ludinus seems to trust him, or at least underestimate him. Chetney asks if he'd really use Fern to be the vessel for Predathos to eat the gods and hold power over the realms. He says no, he wants freedom from the gods, and that's it. He doesn't really care about power over the other realms, apparently. Brea says that doesn't work for them, as they are trying to stop Ludinus from that very same thing, and he asks Fern how she feels about that. Fern says that she doesn't really seem to have a say in all of this. She says that she doesn't want to kill the gods, and she doesn't want power. Orym sees the emissary become disappointed. The emissary says that they joined Ludinus to be free of the gods and to have a child that they wasted a lot of time on, having no interest in their plans, is disappointing. Zethуда says that she's close, she'll learn, there's something inside of her that wants out, true freedom, a hunger for something else. In their heads, Chetney says that they should go with this plan. Brea says that they should take them out now. This seems like the best time to do so. They wonder if this will weaken them or not, weaken the enemy. Laudna asks what exactly the ruse is that they're trying to play here. Zethуда looks at Fern and says, when the assault on the keys are crushed, they'll be waiting to take her right to where she needs to be. The party talk about what this means in their heads. Laudna says if they go with this, they'll be throwing their allies' armies to their deaths. Orym says that they can finish them off here and stop that from happening. Zethуда raises his hand, and Gloomglut lowers its head and picks up the emissary. The guards begin to leave through the main entryway of the temple. Fern walks up to Gloomglut to pet him, and Orym is behind her. She asks if she can pet Gloomglut. Dorian, as she's walking up, asks when she thinks of the word father, who does Fern think of? Fern whispers Nana Mori, which I like. Zethуда says that she can pet him. She touches him and whispers to Zethуда, I heard what you said. I have felt a fire inside and I would like to learn. Please show me. As that word happens, Imogen casts Psychic Lands on Zethуда. He fails the save and he takes 24 damage. He smiles at Fern, but then he is hit with a bunch of pain. Orym runs up Gloomglut and jumps. He uses Grasping Vine to pull the emissary off the beast. He fails and then is fully pulled off of Gloomglut and takes 11 damage from the fall. He is then pulled towards Orym. It's time to roll initiative again, because the pause was really long, so might as well just roll new initiative. Orym is first this time with a 22, Imogen with a 19, Fern with a 17, Chetney with a 15, Breas with a 15, Ashen with a 15, Dorian with a 14, and Laudna with a 9. Orym is first. He runs back 30 feet and then pulls the emissary with the vine. He then uses non-lethal attacks on the emissary, hitting with the first one, dealing 11 damage. He hit with a 24. He then hits again, dealing 14 damage, and he hits his third attack with 10 damage, knocking the emissary out. Zethуда is up, but he's incapacitated due to Psychic Lands. Honestly, one of the best spells. It's fucking cracked. The emissary is up, but he's out cold. Imogen is up. She casts Psychic Lance again on Zethуда. Zethуда fails and takes 29 more damage and is incapacitated again till the end of I think it's the end of Imogen's next turn. He barely holds on to Gloomglut. Imogen flies up to Ira. She then activates her robes, and now it's Gloomglut's turn. He flies over and tries to grab the emissary. Actually rolls a d20 again and gets a 13. The pillar doesn't break as Gloomglut lands right on top of it, basically. The guards who were going to leave, and they were coming back in, decide, you know what, it's best to run away from Gloomglut. Gloomglut then attacks Orym. He hits with the rend attack, dealing 21 damage, and then he hits again with the tail attack, doing 15 damage. Strength save from Orym, he rolls a 19 and isn't knocked prone. as the tail hits the pillar. Ashley has to roll a d20 again, but this time rolls a 3, and the pillar is smashed to pieces, and part of the temple begins to crumble away, all from that nasty tail. Fern is up. Fern tells everyone to get out and says Chetney can find her. She then climbs up Gloomglut, or tries to climb up Gloomglut, and has to roll an animal handling check to see if she's able to, calm it down enough for her to be able to climb. She rolls an 18, and she tries to climb as he fights. She now needs to roll an acrobatics check because it's going to be a bit more difficult. She rolls a 5 and is thrown off. Chetney is up. He runs towards the exit with the boots of speed and dashes to get out altogether. It's best to get out of here and not be crushed than to kill the enemy, apparently. Brace is up. He runs to Fern. He picks her up and casts Thunder Wave to throw her up on top of Gloomglut. She takes 6 damage but is launched on top, and Brace gives her inspiration as she's flown away from him. I question if I should say how he gave her inspiration, but I will. He kisses her on the ass as she is blown away from him. Sam is something else. She gets another chance to land on Gloomglut and rolls a dirty 20, beating Gloomglut's contested roll, and she lands on top of him. Brace then starts to head towards the exit. Ashton is up, he rages, and he runs off full speed towards the exit and gets out. Dorian is up, he runs to the emissary and casts Dimension Door, and he ends up inside the bush that he was in last session. Ira is up, he goes into his nightmare form, and his skin becomes darker and he becomes more exaggerated. He then leaps onto the back of Gloomglut and climbs to Zethuda. He says that he's been waiting for this for far too long, and then he attacks, hitting with only one attack, dealing damage that we're not told. Laudna is up, she uses Void Puppet and sends it to Zethuda, and then casts Disintegrate on him. Fuck me, Laudna, you've been holding out. Zethuda fails the roll and takes 81 damage. Time slows down for Laudna as she feels a heartbeat, and then she fires a beam, hitting Zethuda in the leg, turning it to dust. He screams, but he is still alive. That's fucked up. Disintegrate is a great spell. She then quickens spells and casts Eldritch Blast on him. She's trying to take his ass out, but she only hits one of her Eldritch Blasts, dealing 12 more damage to him. Laudna then moves towards the exit. Gloomglut uses a legendary action to use his wing attack. Dexterity saved from everyone in the range. Ira fails. Imogen, with a 14, takes 6 damage and is knocked prone as the 14 fails, and she falls to the ground because she was flying and takes 8 damage. Fern rolls a 6 and takes 6 damage and falls off Gloomglut and takes 7 falling damage. Ira takes damage from the fall as well. Orem rolls an 18 on the saving throw and nothing happens to him. Orem is now up. He uses Seedling to get on top of Zethuda. On top of Gloomglut to get to Zethuda, but Gloomglut saves against the Grasping Vine using a legendary resistance. He tries to run up Gloomglut, but with a contested roll, Gloomglut is the higher roll here, and he wins. Orem just slashes at Gloomglut then, and deals 9 damage with his first attack, and then hits with the second one for 14 damage. He then swings for a third attack and hits for 14 more damage. Zethuda is up, but he's incapacitated. He holds on to Gloomglut's saddle for dear fucking life. Imogen is up. She uses telekinesis to grab Zethuda and rip him away from Gloomglut. Contested rolls, she rolls a 14, and he rolls a 10. He is ripped off of Gloomglut and pulled towards the ceiling, and she drops him. He lands next to Braeus. He then fell 40 feet, taking 14 more damage, and he's now unconscious from the fall. Crazy. Imogen then uses Misty Step to get closer to the door, and then runs next to Laudna. Gloomglut is up. He flies through the hole that Imogen made, squeezing himself out, and he's going to be a problem later. Everyone in the chamber takes 8 damage from falling debris. They have 1 round before the ceiling comes down. Imogen uses telekinesis to move Zethuda closer to her. They then ask if Ira can get out, and he can. He uses Dimension Door and gets out. Couldn't take anyone else out, could you, asshole? Laudna dashes out to the exit. Imogen grabs Zethuda again and pulls him with telekinesis once more to get a little bit closer to the exit. Fern runs up to the door with all of her movement and bonus action and dashes away. She's currently in the hallway. Brea smashes the face of the Archheart that is on the ground next to him, and he runs to the door and grabs Zethуда on his way out and dashes. He is still in the hallway. Orym runs up with all of his movement and then uses Seedling to move 20 more feet. He is also in the hallway. Ashen then decides to hit Chetney and uses a Singularity Assault. He's trying to make a gravity well to pull everyone out of the hallway. He deals 10 damage to Chetney and everyone outside makes a strength save. Laudna fails and is pulled toward Chetney, as does Ira. He pulls Orym and Fern out of the temple completely. The rest are on the edge of the hallway. Chetney takes 10 more damage from the people who were pulled into him, and the people outside watch as the ceiling collapses on Breas, Imogen, and Zethуда. Breas tries to cover up Zethуда to keep him alive just in case. The temple falls and dust billows out from where the temple once stood. Eventually it settles, and the party see the ruined pile that was once the Shrine of Gilded Gifts. Ashen and Orym start pulling rocks. The guards rush over to where the emissary is. They try to help the emissary, but Dorian, who doesn't want to fight, casts Hypnotic Pattern on them. They both fail, and he tells them that he's fine, but they are in the trance of his spell. He then ties up the emissary with his hemp rope, and the party begin to pull away at the rubble. Laudna tries to reach out to Imogen with the telepathic bond. In the darkness, Imogen and Breas hear the sound of the temple falling, but suddenly it stops. The rocks begin to pull back, and the temple begins to reconstruct itself. The cracks are still seen after it's done, but the vines and leaves are gone. And what stands is a polished but cracked temple of the Archheart. The rest see Breas and Imogen are now standing there. They all feel a presence in the air, and it's filled with a very powerful force. There's a faint glimmer of a golden light coming from the temple. The party all head back inside. Breas tries to stabilize Zethуда. Fern gives him guidance, and they make a medicine check. Breas says that with the eyes of the Platinum Dragon looking at him, hopefully they can let this work. He rolls a 13, and this works. Zethуда is stable, but he is out cold. Ashen takes his sword immediately because he doesn't want him using it against them. Brilliant. Dorian takes the emissary inside, and they all head in. They see the cracks go throughout the entirety of the inside of this temple. Ashen finds comfort in the cracked look here. The central chamber is also fixed but cracked. The rock of the statue that was the statue of the Archheart reforms, and it smiles and turns to them. Matt leaves the table, and Abu Bakr, the player of the Archheart from Downfall, takes his seat. This was awesome. The statue looks over at the party and takes them all in, and then stops and looks at Breas, who smashed his face a little more than a couple minutes ago. The statue walks to him and asks if he really needed to do that. Breas says that his lord and him don't have the greatest relationship from what he saw. The Archheart questions that. Breas asks if he's real, and the Archheart snaps his fingers, and the roof opens. They all hear a horrible screech come from somewhere. Intelligence save from everyone. Chetney with a 14, Orym with a 12, Imogen with a 19, Laudna with a 20, Dorian with a 20, Breas with a 17, Fern with a 16, and Ashen with a 16. They've all heard this screech before. They are sent back to the day of their birth, and they see the sky open up and arms grab them. They are now in a field with reeds swaying. Above them are stars, and they are all unique. They feel like they could reach out and grab them. They smell roses, and they smell perfection and beauty, which is a weird thing to smell. They see a figure 30 feet away from them, outlined with starry light. They look naked, but not with normal skin. Their skin is like a tapestry of stars. Not scars, stars. He asks Breas to step forward. Breas does. The Archheart asks what Breas knows of family, and Breas says that family is the most precious thing, and if anyone challenges them, you destroy them. The Archheart asks who his family is, and Breas says that he doesn't have any, but that's what he seeks. The Archheart says that it's touching. He says, let's forget the face smashing. He says, swear fealty to me, and I'll let you live. Breas asks if there's another option, and the Archheart laughs and says no. Breas feels that there's more important things than life, who you swear allegiance to and who you call family. So he won't do that. He's already pledged to another who wouldn't be happy to be betrayed again as he looks at the Archheart. That's some fucking ballsy shit from Breas. The Archheart says that he thought he'd had him there. He then welcomes them to his home. He's surprised by them. He thought they'd be more heroic and asks what they have seen specifically. Orm tries to see if this is actually a god standing before them. With an insight of 19, he can't tell, but the power in front of him is very raw. Imogen says that they saw what happened in Aor. He asks them if they heard the countless screams of the people as they died. The party say yes. He says that they saw their power and what they can do. They know what mortals can do as well. He then creates a table with food that they can all sit at and eat. Only a handful of them actually do so. He asks what he'll do, or what they'll do, with the knowledge that they saw, and why they're fighting family in his temple. Orm says one of the god's children wants their other children to know what they saw that day in Aor. Imogen says there was a recording of what happened in Aor, and he has that recording. Orm says that this child wants to let the other children decide to do away with the gods. Orm says he's not sure if they are aligned, but they fear the question of that action and getting rid of the gods. Orm fears the breaking of the balance that lets them all thrive. The Archheart says that he fears it too, but something inside says it might need to be broken. There's a reason they're all here now. There's a reason for a burning desire for change. Lana says things can be broken in many ways. To tip the scales, she asks which way he wants that to go. She says that she saw him talk to the Raven Queen, and he questioned if he even wanted death or not. The Archheart says that he doesn't want that now. It's rather dark, but he does feel that there needs to be a change. He keeps seeing their children rebel over and over again in a cycle. He feels their presence isn't doing anything at all anymore. They want the gods out. He looks at Fern and asks what that is inside her. He sees the fire within her, and then he sees something in Ashen. He touches Ashen, and Ashen feels the need to transform. The Archheart says that this changes things, and the party asks if he's angry, and he says no, he's fascinated. Ashen says he can finally ask this question, as he's finally in front of a god, and asks what it is they want. What do they really want? Not souls and not worship. Why won't they let go of Exandria? The Archheart says that he wants that. He wants to let go. He's bored and tired and wants them to let go, but he doesn't know how. The door didn't work, and death doesn't work either. The door being the gate. The divine gate. He says he watched their battle, and he sees an opportunity here. One to sacrifice a family. He asks if they know what it means to become a vessel of Predathos. Imogen and Fern don't, but they have guesses. Imogen thinks that they'll take in the power of Predathos and sort of be his conduit. And Fern says that they'll become like a receptacle or something else. Or for something else. Lana says that she knows what it's like to be a vessel for someone else. He asks if she has control. Lana believes she does, but it took a while to get there, and the lines between her and Delilah were blurred. She didn't know where she ended and Delilah began. The Archheart says that there are two of them that want to sort of let go, two gods who want to let go. Brass asks who the other one is, but the Archheart doesn't say. He'd rather leave it up to them to discover that. The rest are doing the dance again. They're asking if they should intervene. They're close to another calamity, as they are close to death. But the truth is that lives will be lost to preserve themselves again. He thought they had changed. He sees that the only way out is what Ludinus desires. However, he believes that one of the two of the Root is born here can control its power and chase them off. If they can get there before anyone else, if they can sneak in and take over and gain control, Imogen asks if he was inside one of them, if they can control his power. He says that's a good question. She says that she's felt the power of Predathos. The Archheart says that Predathos is powerful, but he only wants one thing, and that's his family, for food or enjoyment. He doesn't know. He believes for mortality to be able to evolve, it is for them to not be here waiting at the gate to intervene. And the only way they will run is if they have something to fear. He doesn't know what will happen to the vessels, but if they care for their family, sacrifices need to be made. Imogen asks about the children who won't let go of the gods. He says that they will learn. Orm asks what if they can't run as fast enough, and what happens to the people. The Archheart says it depends on how fast they are and how fast they move, because if they are too slow, another calamity will begin and they'll have to rebuild again. Imogen asks how many it'll take to control Predathos. He doesn't know, and that's scary. The party have seen the Archarch's power, but he is now powerless before them. He sees this group has more powerful in this moment. Fate is on their side. Dorian asks how it feels to have the shoe on the other foot. Now he fears death, and his instinct is to sacrifice his family and run. And yet he asks them to have the courage to fight for him seems like a poor bargain. But what he does know is he's just a stupid person. The Archarch says that they are their children. Why would he think low of them? Some of them do, but he doesn't, and some of his kin don't. He finds the power in the two of them incredible and thinks that it can only grow if they step back. So he asks for them to sacrifice themselves in order for the greater good. He knows what he will answer to when it happens. Dorian says that he'll get to live. Orym says that if he runs fast enough. Imogen asks maybe he'll help his brother and sisters out for a bit. Ashen asks what happens to his power when he leaves. The Archer doesn't know. Laudna asks if he's the one who gave them these gifts. I'm assuming that's about art and other stuff in his domain because this question came out of literally fucking nowhere, and I rewound it like 15 times to figure out what she was talking about, so I have no idea. He says yes, and Fern asks why. He says that he wanted to change things up. He asks why Chetney carves wood, and Chetney says that it brings him joy. The Archarch says that he wants his family to flourish like they all want their family to flourish. Chetney asks if it's true if they lost 2 of their family to Predathos when he first landed. The Archarch says yes and is shocked by what they know. Chetney asks if the Archarch had this same talk with Ludinus. The Archarch says no. He has a good idea, but he is very power hungry. He says Ludinus is too caught up in his own self. He doesn't know what will happen when they leave, but he feels that it'll balance itself out like it always does. The issue comes from things that they can't forcibly balance, like releasing Predathos to kill them. Do they think they'd really let that happen? No, because when Mortality tried to kill them before, they tipped the scales in their favor, much like Eeyore, well, specifically Eeyore. He's asking them to become faster than them so that this doesn't happen, because they're waiting for the moment that they arrive at this big battle, and all it takes is for the gods to step in, and another calamity will begin. Ashen asks if the others know about his plan. He says no, he's very sneaky. Ashen asks if he's asking mortals for help. He says if you see it that way. Ashen wants him to see it that way, and the Archarch laughs and says yes, he is asking for their help. They need their help. Breas asks why not just feed Predathos one of the gods. The Archarch asks if he's really asking him to sacrifice his own family. Fern says one of yours or one of ours. Breas asks why that's not an option. Imogen says that won't make him happy with just one. She says that his hunger is endless and bottomless. Imogen says that she's worried Predathos will eat mortals as well, and the Archarch says that he won't. They are nothing to it. Orym says that he stamps on ants every day because he doesn't know that they are there. The Archarch says that its a single purpose is to devour the gods. It'll chase them to the ends. It will never stop. Imogen says that he wants them to take it to stop it. To take it in to stop it. Dorian says so the Archarch can get a head start. The Archarch says containing it didn't work. Breas says no shit, they left it in sight for all of them to look at. Breas asks if he'll leave with his family, with all of his family, and the Archarch says yes. Breas asks if he'll tell Asmodeus to get a head start, and the Archarch asks why he would tell him. Would you release Predathos for him? Breas says yes if he asked him to. Suddenly behind the Archarch, the stars form into a horned beast, and the beast asks if he would free Predathos for him, and Breas says that he knows that he isn't Asmodeus. The Archarch says, do you? And Breas insight checks with a 19. He has no clue, but the stars leave, and the Archarch says that he won't ask him to do that. He's aware the power is in their hands. All he can do is ask them right now. The party asks why he doesn't just leave, or why they don't just leave. He says, why would they leave their children when something big, dark, and scary is coming soon? Fern says he's trying to send them to it right now. He says that he knows, but it's about convincing the rest of his family, not him. They are fearing for their lives. They are just like them. They fear for their lives. The only way to get out is through fear. The only way to convince the rest of them is through fear. They saw what they did in Aor out of fear. Lana asks how he can assure them that a calamity won't start even if they do take in Predathos. He says that every time they have felt that they are threatened, they've acted, but this time they are divided. There has never been an opportunity like this before, and when they are on the back foot, they will run. Orm jams Seedling into the table in front of him, and vines begin to grow up it. He says that some of his kin seem keen to fight, so even if they take his offer, it doesn't seem to have much sway over them. What if they start a calamity when it gets loose? The Archheart says he can only speak for his experience. They have always had the advantage, and they don't have the advantage now. Dorian asks if they can control Predathos, and Fern thinks that she can. Orm says one god says one thing and another says another thing. The Archheart says he just wants to give his opinion. He doesn't have the answers, but that's what makes it so exciting. He can't see what's going to happen, but he knows what will happen if they go to war, and he knows what will happen if they release Predathos, which seems like he can see what happens. That's what he's asking them to get ahead of everyone else for. The Archheart says if they move too slow, the gods will make the decision for them. Dorian says that before they met, he was willing to serve the gods, however now he wants to resist it, after meeting him. But he's giving them the chance to release Predathos and get rid of the gods. He will make a deal with him if he and his friends can live their lives. He tells the Archheart to run, as that'll make him happy to see it. Lana asks how much he'll aid them if they do go through with this. Ashen claims that he knew it would be the Archheart to show up to them. The Archheart says that he can't aid them. If he actively takes part in this, it opens the door for the others to do the same. But he can do this. He pinches the sky and pulls down a star. The star is about 10 feet away from them. They get close to it and they feel a supreme power coming from it. They see a face of a feminine figure with their eyes burning intensely. Burning with an intensity in them. They can hear a whisper of a panicked mantra. It keeps saying, "This weapon, I want to see it." Imogen says that's her. At the corner of its mouth is a hair. The Archheart says this was someone dear to him, but he doesn't need her anymore. If they want his help to pluck the hair from the mouth, and Imogen grabs it and pulls. It lets out a hoarse groan and dissipates. A flash of light comes from it. Lana gets a hint of a smell of winter, and she sees an image of a mask with black feathers, and a whisper that says, "Come find me." They all hear in their heads, "You heard my side, you don't have much time, do what you feel is right." They wake up and feel the cold stone floor on their faces. Abu Bakar leaves the table and Matt comes back. They come to and sit up in this chamber, and the statue is now resolute, and there is a gold band wrapped around the finger of Imogen. The echoes of choices to be made in the times to come. Imogen now has the Ring of Remembrance, and here is where the session ends. And there you have it, episode 107 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Very much an enjoyable episode. I like long combats like this. I've sort of shifted my opinions on things. Like, I'm a big fan of these long combats, especially because a lot of them have a lot of storytelling stuff, because it feels like every combat in Campaign 3 is important, because whether it's they kill off like a general or they learn something more about Ludinus, the fights in this campaign feel far more important than a lot of the fights in prior campaigns. But that's just me. I don't know why. I feel like these fights in this campaign is like more important. There's more of these more important fights in Campaign 3 than in prior campaigns. But we learned a few things. First and foremost, based on how Simulacrum works, it seems like Ludinus's health is somewhere around 362. Now, that's the total damage that the Ludinus Simulacrum took, so it's actually likely less than that, but who knows? It's probably like maybe 10 or 15 less than that, depending, because the last hit that Ashen had did 24 damage, so it's anywhere in that 24 spectrum, and I'm just going to say 10 to 15. But overall, we learned that about Ludinus, and we learned that killing these Simulacrums is a bad move because they blow the fuck up. I think we already knew that, but now we can remember it because it's going to be much closer on our brains. But I'm very intrigued on where this whole thing with Zathuda goes because he's now out cold, and I'm very interested in seeing more. And I just smacked my mic, but fuck it. I'm very intrigued in seeing what happens with Gloomglut moving forward. Are they going to go on like a mini arc to like get him on their side? Is he going to become like a mount for Ludinus? That just seems dangerous to me. But depending on how things go, I feel like they are going to stick around in the Fey Realm for a little bit, so that's interesting. And obviously, I think the most important thing that we learned is that the Archheart is a massive bitch. Like, I want you to sacrifice members of your family so me and my family can leave. Why can't I sacrifice members of my family and do the same thing? Because I'm selfish. Yeah. Oh, cool. He gave them a ring. He's asking them to die. Fuck that guy. That was awesome. He's such a dick. But anyway, I'll talk about that more on Tuesday because I have some feelings about that and I'm going to make a video about it. So that's my next video. Why the Archheart is a dick. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday for that video. That's not what I'm going to call it. But yeah, that is going to be my next video on Tuesday. And I'll see you guys then. Peace.